come on! Oh, no, 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 no! Hi, are you wondering how did I end up in this predicament? Are you pondering on why did I get myself into such a troublesome situation? Do you have time in your day to tune in into another one of these misadventures? No? Impossible! You clicked on the video! Anyways, this time I have enrolled myself into the prestigious race series, World Series Racing, and was in my way to climb my way through the ranks to be the best racer the world has ever seen. To reach that goal, I must first complete these events. P3. Well. Looks like we got a job to do. Clean up this absolute stain of a record. With that had been said, with the BMW, I've gone. The first round of this tournament was set on Yas Marina Raceway. Apparently, there's this guy called Callum Kirkwood. Quite a big shot. Defeating him would surely spread my name to the ends of the earth. On the first corner of the track, I brake later and managed to gain a position against George. In addition, the seemingly reckless action had allowed me to contest the opposing Chevrolet off his intended racing line. I entered the hairpin from a vantage point, allowing me to gain two positions simultaneously, and right on the second part of the pin, Bruno Silva was taken care of. I kept my rifles closed throughout the straights, relying on the slipstream to remain relevant in the race, and gave Harrison over there a friendly bump as I was exiting the fifth corner, gaining P4. However, I was too reckless and as a result, smashed onto Nakanu's rear bumper, denying myself a chance to grab the bronze medal then and there. I quickly resolved this issue through outspeeding the Japanese racer throughout the turn instead. With the bronze medal in hand, I dashed to catch the yellow turning car before me, brake around the 50-meter mark, sent the car over the final corner, and into lap 2, I've gone. I made my way through the hairpin while maintaining an ideal racing line, sped through the speed section, and took a tighter line compared to Nasser to cut the distance between us. I did feel a little bad on doing this to the guy in his own hometown, but I had to do what I did in order to reach my objective. From that point on, my only rival was the star of the race, Callum Kirkwood. Despite the little off a steer, I managed to maintain a proper racing line down turn 8, preventing Kirkwood from gaining more advantage through turn 9, and kept this consistent level of performance down the 10th corner. For some reason, Kirkwood managed to build a gap. I carefully went through the last corner and raced through the paddock to the third lap. I went a bit too aggressive on the hairpin this time around as my frustration grew. This, of course, did not do me any favors as Kirkwood had gained yet another second of lead. The situation got worse on the 5th corner, where I ate grass as a result of the hubris of my actions. I tried making up for my mistakes on turn 6 and was forced into a wild bull ride with the bimmer sliding all over the next couple of corners. Strangely, this managed to close my distance against Kirkwood, but still not good enough. On the final corner of the lap, I went a bit too slow and deep as the car went slower than I've expected while briefly making a trade in paint with the guardrails. Into the 4th lap I've gone and...
Last lap, second place, you can do this.
Thank you, the voice inside my head, for the encouragement. I will need it given how seemingly unbeatable Kirkwood was. I opted for the inside through hairpin, chose a more cautious approach down the 4th corner, albeit still maintaining a streamlined approach for the set of corners, reduced the oversteer down the 7th corner, and skirted the limits of turn 8. Unfortunately, despite all my efforts, I had to be happy at 2nd, as Kirkwood had finished the race about 2 seconds earlier before me. That was run 1, into the 2nd round we go, which was still held in Yas Marina, only instead on a different part. In order to gain P1, I have to either get first place in this round or finish ahead of Kirkwood and have him experience a horrible round. A superior launch had gotten me an immediate P9. By the first corner, I noticed there were so many racers brake early. Naturally, I did the exact opposite to take advantage. This turned out to be a very good move, as late braking had allowed me to climb all the way to P5. And as a bonus, I got to tag Mr. Kirkwood himself. Like a snake, I slithered down the next few corners right behind the tournament leader. On the sharp left, I refused to let Cullen go, and after a slight contest of power, I have finally managed to defeat the blue-yellow Bimmer. I took an ideal racing line down the 7th corner, taking aim at Nakano in order to claw my way up to the podium. On the next corner, I took the outside lane to amass more speed in order to do my overtake. And despite had gotten slightly out of track, the bronze medal was finally mine. I tried to attack the yellow BMW post the 11th corner. It didn't work, and that nasty slide had done nothing except make things worse. And that was the first lap, done in almost a minute. Lucky for me, Nasser also braked way too early, and as a result of losing this game of chicken, I managed to claim P2. Although this maneuver did not bode too well as I exceeded the set of corners. From that point onward, my problem would be Harrison. Like Kirkwood on the first round, he had somehow gained a tremendous lead that I cannot seem to close. I went past the fastest racing line down the sharp left, carefully took on the next corner, used the curbs to judge the apex for the corner after that one, still no dice. By the third lap, Harrison was at least 3 seconds ahead, and I have to somehow close this gap into laps around this small layout. I tried late braking to get past the first set of corners faster. He was still 3 seconds ahead. I went through the ideal line down turn 4, still no visible improvement, and I'm pretty sure Nasir was close enough to attempt an attack. While I managed to somewhat shake him off on the 7th corner, Harrison was seemingly untouchable. No matter what I've done, the gap remained stuck at roughly 3 seconds as I entered the final lap. What did change though was my lead against P3. With almost 2 seconds of advantage, should I keep this level of performance down the rest of the race, P2 might as well be secured. I kind of cut the track on turn 7. Please don't tell anyone. Linked the next 2 corners by treating them as a singular, large left turn to streamline my run down the track. I let my car slide down the 11th corner, and despite all this, I still couldn't get P1. What I did win though was the leading spot of the tournament, with only 2 points ahead of Carter himself. Despite not winning the race, their circumstances was set for my overall victory. Should I get a consistent placing on the next round, I might just win the tournament without winning a single race. The final round was set in Yas Marina International Circuit. Again, I decided to change my points of view a little, as I figured that to win the race, I'll need surgical precision on weaving through the traffic of other racers. On the first turn, despite running off of the track's limits, I managed to climb to P7, a somewhat decent building block towards my victory. Down the next few corners, I noticed that Lorenzo was struggling to keep his car under control. I took advantage of this and went for the inside part of the corner and gained yet another position up the leaderboards. I tailed Silva down turn 5, and as we raced down the straights, I noticed that we are even in terms of power. Well, that was to be expected, of course. He braked for the 6th corner, a mistake that costed him dearly as I managed my way up to P5. I kept the BMW under control throughout the chicane and managed to exit the corner in proper speeds within the proper racing line. I employed the good old late braking technique down the 7th corner, which was effective in taking the 4th place away from Nakano. And to avoid wheel spin, I shifted out mid-corner to the 3rd gear and set my sights on Kirkwood.
Clean drive so far. Nice.
As you can hear, the voice inside my head praised me for my, clean driving as I entered lap 2. Thanks, mate. This disadvantage didn't seem to mend as we raced down turn 2, so a perfect grip down the chicane was a very much welcome change, as this would yield in a faster time past the section. Right after the 100-meter mark, I yanked the wheels to the left, commanding the BMW to turn as hard as it could down the hairpin, and made it out from the corner as optimal as I could. Still, no dice. The gap was there to stay, regardless of what I did. As I approached the 6th corner, I smelled an opportunity. I made the turn without braking, putting complete confidence within my car to make it out unscathed past the chicane. And it did cut the gap between me and Kirkwood. On the 7th corner, I sent my BMW through the hairpin and managed to maintain the best racing line possible as it drifted across the corner. By the final corner of the lap, I tagged Callum as a sign to a manly duel of speed down the straights towards the final lap. And by the first corner, I had finally managed to climb my way to P3 despite the flawed aftermath of the corner. Callum tried to reclaim his spot, but I prevented him from going through. The problem then was Harrison. If I recall correctly, I only had 2 more points compared to Carter, and should the difference of points earned by P2 and P3 were 4 points, I would lose the tournament should I finish after him. In other words, in order to win, I must at least finish ahead of the American. I kept my pace throughout the 3rd corner, raced down to the hairpin, braked even later to minimize downtime, and shifted up early to avoid excessive wheel spin. I think I've gotten closer to Carter with around a second of disadvantage. I weaved through the 6th corner, similar to how I tackled this corner the last time, in order to get even closer and put Harrison inside my attacking range. And the similarity of our car's power allowed me to keep him from pulling away. On turn 7, I braked late and managed to finally wrestle away the 2nd position from Carter. I took the wider lane on the final corner, allowing myself a better speed compared to Carter. And before we know it, the race was over.
We have a winner.
Yes! I did it! I clutched the tournament! With a grand total of 48 points as a result from a consistent 2nd place throughout the championship, I have managed to keep my lead over my competition. And so, I have managed to win the entire championship without winning a single race. Upon returning to my garage, I decided that the name D-Strix was quite dumb, and frankly, does not completely represent who or what I am. So, I changed that. Apparently, Rockstar Energy was impressed by my performance and had invited me over to race in their promotional event. I thought, what could go wrong? And rolled with it. The promotional event was held in Dubai. Apparently, we'll be racing not on a fixed route, as the racetrack would be changed live as we race, hence the name, Live Routes. I was loaned a Mustang that I will totally take care of and not bump all over the place. Apparently, I was not doing the best job at launching as Leo Vega over there had just overtaken my car right off the bat. I kept him close and profited off the slipstream the rifling 4 gave and changed my lane in order to avoid the impending chaos and overtook 2 cars. Apparently, the lanes were not enough to host this many cars at once, as showcased by this absolute pandemonium that was unfolding before me. I thought I could get away with flake braking on that situation, but I underestimated the distance between me and Haas. While I managed to take P6, that little incident could have been completely avoided. But, oh well. I did not lose all momentum though, and managed to get past the challenger on the same corner. I sensed that Haas was unhappy with how our little battle went, and decided to prevent him from taking his revenge on the corner's exit. I took advantage of Hernandez's blunder, took the title racing line, and got myself at P3. Down the seaside, I tailed Roman close and kept on pressuring the Camaro driver until he finally gave into the fear and braked before the corner. A mistake I managed to capitalize upon and seize the pole position. Now, all I had to do was defending my throne with all I had, as there was still at least 5 minutes before the race ended. I kept the Mustang at the center of the track while being wary of all the possible directions this race could take. The curve ended with a rudder round left. In response, I shifted directions and sent the Mustang all over the corner with a controlled gas which decorated my exit of the turn. Another chicane and another streamlined approach, which was instrumental in keeping my lead. I went up the curbs on the next corner, and despite the car was briefly only on 2 wheels, I managed to keep my pace. I cautiously made my way past the medium right, and as I hammered down the throttle, I kept my eyes peeled for the possible directions this race could have taken. Before I knew it, I was brought back to the rather chaotic section, only this time it was much less chaotic as there was no opponents to be worried about as I sped through this part of the route. I kept my car under 200 as I was cautious of the environment and noticed a sharp right awaiting for my arrival. Unfortunately, I did not slow down enough and the car understeered. It was a good thing I managed to keep the Mustang from making contact with the walls. I drifted down the next corner and tried to chain the next corner within the drift as I noticed midway that such thing was possible. And looks like we were back in the seaside section. I thought I knew where I was going, but I forgot that in live routes, even similar sidings could lead to a very different track. I slammed the brakes before the Mustang deviated too much from the ideal racing line and gunned it down the streets. I took on the S-curve properly and maintained the ideal racing line down the next corner. The first noticeable difference was on this section, where instead of going all the way down, I was made to turn right back to the asphalt. I made note of the potential hairpin before me, and would you look at that? It was a hairpin after all. I remained on the inside through the power of power sliding, and apparently, I was getting too complacent as Roman had managed to close the gap and signaled me of his presence with a love tap. I kicked into the high gear and maintained a high speed down the slope, but eventually, I had to slow down as the chicane was rather dangerous to be taken at such speeds. I thought I could shake him off on the sharp left, but to no avail, he was still glued to my back. I tried a risky approach featuring getting very close to the walls as I thought that was the shortest route I could make down the corner. Still, no dice. I tried a wide approach to the highway for the optimal speed, and looks like that did the trick. I could no longer hear the bellows of my opponent's Camaro, but it was too early to party as a sharp left awaited at the end of the straights. I drifted down the corner, and the terror of the rivaling V8 was once again heard. Upon returning to the seaside section, the Camaro had once again gotten very close, and I have to defend this position like my life depended on it for at least 2 more minutes. But I refuse to surrender. I will persist despite the pressure and bring home the golden trophy. I made my way through the hairpin, championing caution over speed, and kept my eyes peeled on the track. Anything could happen here, and I must be prepared for any possibility. I did a little curbing down the corner and was quite taken aback at a sudden change of direction as I returned to the chaotic section. The memories of this remarkable part of the track had been burned into my muscles, and I made my way through with zero hesitation. This time, I could afford being a bit faster as I was familiar with at least parts of the section. I kept my composure down the easy left and sensed an incoming sharp turn. I drifted across the corner into the highway and gunned it. At that point, I could no longer hear the Camaro and the thought that I was safe. Unfortunately, I misjudged the corner, thinking it was a complete sharp left, when in reality, it's a S-curve. I corrected my direction, but was too slow to prevent Christian from reclaiming P1. I thought Roman was the only threat I'll have to manage against this time, but I was wrong, as Kowalski made a return, took advantage of our squabble, and claimed first place. Fortunately for me, I've managed to remember some of the section and changed lanes to avoid crashing into the braking red Camaro and slid across the corner. A little risky, but hey, I just did what I had to do to not bottle it up at the very end. Kowalski was apparently not happy with how I claimed first place and tried to make an attack down the S-curve. Unfortunate for him, we took the same lane, and he was forced to look at my taillights as I kept my lead throughout the corner. But his presence had given me more pressure, as at that point, I'll have to remain cautious and expect any route this track might feature, while defending myself from Kowalski and possibly Roman, who couldn't have been that far behind. 10 seconds remained. I sped through the sections as fast as I could, keeping myself composure to avoid mistakes, drifted where I needed to drift, and ultimately won the challenge.
Nice work, pal. You smashed that objective.
With a potential sponsor satiated and one more event won in the World Series Championship, looks like the drift event and one more race in the session are next on the list. How will they be tackled? You will see next time. You're still here? Well, does this mean you need more videos to watch? In that case, I got you covered.